Inflation, in its simplest form, refers to a general increase in the prices of goods and services in an economy over a period of time. When the price level rises, each unit of currency buys fewer goods and services. Consequently, inflation reflects a reduction in the purchasing power per unit of money, a loss of real value in the medium of exchange and unit of account within the economy. One of the most widely used measures of inflation is the Consumer Price Index, or CPI. The CPI tracks the average change in prices paid by urban consumers for a basket of consumer goods and services over time. This basket includes various items like food and beverages, housing, transportation, education, and healthcare, representing a typical household's consumption pattern. In India, the CPI is released monthly by the National Statistical Office, or NSO. It is a crucial economic indicator that the Reserve Bank of India, or RBI, considers when formulating monetary policy. Understanding inflation and its measurement is fundamental to analyzing economic trends and formulating effective economic policies. Inflation can manifest in different forms, each with its own implications for the economy. Based on the rate of increase in prices, economists generally classify inflation into four categories: creeping inflation, walking inflation, galloping inflation, and hyperinflation. Creeping inflation, also known as mild inflation, is characterized by a slow and steady increase in prices, typically less than 3% per year. This type of inflation is often considered manageable and can even be beneficial for economic growth as it encourages investment and consumption. Walking inflation, on the other hand, involves a more noticeable increase in prices, usually in the range of 3 to 10% per year. While this level of inflation is not immediately alarming, it can erode purchasing power over time and lead to uncertainty in the economy. Galloping inflation is a more serious concern, marked by a rapid and accelerating increase in prices, often exceeding 10% per year. This type of inflation can wreak havoc on an economy, eroding savings, discouraging investment, and leading to social unrest. Hyperinflation is the most extreme form of inflation, characterized by an astronomical and uncontrollable increase in prices, often exceeding 50% per month. This catastrophic economic scenario leads to the complete collapse of the currency system and widespread economic chaos. Understanding the causes of inflation is crucial for developing effective policies to manage it. Economists generally categorize the causes of inflation into two broad categories: demand-pull inflation and cost-push inflation. Demand-pull inflation occurs when the aggregate demand for goods and services in an economy outpaces the aggregate supply. This imbalance can arise from various factors, such as increased consumer spending, government spending, or investment. When too much money chases too few goods, prices are bid up, leading to inflation. Cost-push inflation, on the other hand, originates from the supply side of the economy. It occurs when there is an increase in the cost of production, such as raw materials, labor, or energy. Businesses then pass these increased costs on to consumers in the form of higher prices, leading to inflation. Another factor contributing to inflation is the wage price spiral. This occurs when rising prices lead to demands for higher wages, which in turn push up production costs and lead to further price increases. This vicious cycle can perpetuate inflation and make it difficult to control. Structural inflation, a less common but persistent form of inflation, arises from inefficiencies and bottlenecks within the economy's structure. These can include factors like inadequate infrastructure, supply chain disruptions, or government regulations that hinder competition. Such structural issues can lead to chronic supply shortages and persistent price pressures. Section 4. The Indian Inflation Story: Recent Trends and Causes. India has experienced significant economic growth in recent decades, but inflation has also been a persistent challenge. In recent years, several factors have contributed to inflationary pressures in the Indian economy. On the demand side, rising incomes and a growing middle class have fueled consumer spending, putting upward pressure on prices. Additionally, government spending on infrastructure and social programs has also contributed to demand-pull inflation. On the supply side, factors like rising global commodity prices, particularly crude oil, have significantly impacted India, a net importer of oil. Domestic supply chain disruptions, exacerbated by factors like erratic monsoon seasons and infrastructure bottlenecks, have also contributed to cost-push inflation. Structural issues such as low agricultural productivity, inadequate storage facilities, and inefficiencies in the food supply chain have also played a role in driving food inflation in India. These structural bottlenecks often lead to periodic spikes in food prices, impacting overall inflation. Global factors such as supply chain disruptions caused by geopolitical events and the COVID-19 pandemic have also contributed to inflationary pressures in India and globally. These disruptions have impacted the supply of various goods and commodities, leading to price increases. Section 5. The ripple effect, economic and social impacts of inflation. Inflation, particularly when high or volatile, can have far-reaching consequences for the economy and society as a whole. It erodes the purchasing power of money, making it difficult for individuals and families to afford essential goods and services. This erosion of purchasing power can lead to a decline in living standards, particularly for low-income households. For businesses, inflation creates uncertainty, making it challenging to plan for the future. The volatility in prices makes it difficult to determine pricing strategies, negotiate contracts, and make investment decisions. This uncertainty can stifle economic growth and job creation. Furthermore, inflation can exacerbate income inequality. While some individuals and businesses can hedge against inflation by investing in assets that appreciate in value, others, particularly those on fixed incomes or with limited financial resources, are disproportionately affected. This disparity can lead to social unrest and instability. High inflation can also impact a country's international competitiveness. If prices of goods and services in a country rise faster than those in competing nations, its exports become less competitive, potentially leading to a decline in exports and a widening trade deficit. Section 6. Taming the inflationary beast, measures for control. Controlling inflation is a crucial aspect of macroeconomic management. Governments and central banks employ a combination of monetary and fiscal policies to manage inflation and maintain price stability. Monetary policy, typically managed by a country's central bank, involves controlling the money supply and interest rates. To combat inflation, central banks can raise interest rates, making borrowing more expensive and curbing both consumer spending and investment. This action helps to cool down an overheated economy and reduce inflationary pressures. Fiscal policy, on the other hand, involves government spending and taxation. To control inflation, governments can reduce spending or raise taxes, which effectively reduces the amount of money circulating in the economy and helps to curb demand-pull inflation. In addition to these conventional measures, governments can also implement supply-side policies to address cost-push inflation. These can include measures to boost productivity, reduce bureaucratic hurdles, improve infrastructure, and promote competition in the market. By addressing supply-side constraints, governments can help to moderate price increases and control inflation. Section 7. Navigating the Indian inflation landscape, current data and trends. As of April 5, 2025, India's inflation rate as measured by the CPI stands at, insert the latest available CPI inflation rate for India. This figure represents, describe whether the current inflation rate is higher or lower than the previous period, and mention the RBI's target inflation range. The RBI's Monetary Policy Committee, MPC, has maintained its policy repo rate at, insert the current policy repo rate, in its recent meeting, citing concerns over, mention the factors that the RBI is concerned about, such as global uncertainty, geopolitical tensions, or domestic inflationary pressures. Recent data suggests that, describe the current trend of inflation in India. Is it rising, falling, or plateauing? Mention any specific sectors or components driving the current trend, such as food inflation, fuel prices, or core inflation. The government has taken several measures to combat inflation, including list any recent government initiatives aimed at controlling inflation, such as import duty reductions, export restrictions, or price controls on essential commodities. The outlook for inflation in India remains. Describe the general outlook for inflation in India. Is it expected to remain elevated, moderate, or decline in the coming months? Mention any factors that could influence the future trajectory of inflation, such as monsoon performance, global commodity prices, or government policies.